Well, yes, indeed. Dr. Kayode Fayemi joins us from our studios in Abuja. He's the Minister of Solid Minerals Development. Yes, Papa will take it in a moment, but let's get this first of all out of the way. Doc, could you tell us, we'd like to know the details of this renegotiated concession.
Hi, Chamberlain. Good morning. Well, it's been very clear from what we've released to the media after the execution of the renegotiated contract. What we have succeeded in doing with the renegotiated contract is first take back Ajaokuta steel plant. The priority of this government and the focus of the president when he campaigned to Nigerians was that we were going to resuscitate Ajaokuta steel plant. And we've been locked down in this endless arbitration for the last 8 years, preventing that particular promise that the president made to Nigerians to come to fruition. And with all of our best efforts, legal, political, we clearly came to the conclusion that there was no other way we could have accomplished that without giving something that would enable us to do so. Don't forget, this was a contract that was revoked, and there was clearly a breach on the part of the Nigerian government when it revoked the contract, which was what led Global Steel Holding Company to take Nigeria to the London Court of Arbitration. And that's what we've been dragging for all of these years. So not only did we succeed in getting Global to release Ajaokuta without paying a dime. And don't forget, Nigeria had already admitted in the course of this arbitration and mediation that we were liable to pay somewhere in the region of about $500 to $700 million for what Global had put in. That was the calculation. That was something that our own Bureau of Public Enterprises and the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development and a number of other players had committed Nigerians to in the course of that negotiation. Now we're not paying any of that. What we're doing in return is, yes, giving the Nigerian iron ore mining company back for the remaining period of the concession. It was a 10-year concession. 3 years had been completed before the revocation. Now there is 7 years left of the concession. So all that we've done is allow Global come and complete the concession. And that's not even without conditions. The conditions are that we're going to enter into a joint forensic audit, which started yesterday. Okay. And we're going to have an independent auditor, one of the Global Four, that will then supervise that process. And it's what we agree in terms of responsibilities and liabilities that would guide the process of Global's return to Itakpe. And as I've indicated in the statement that was released in the immediate aftermath of the execution, we also will commence a process of retaking Ajaokuta as we go on with the audit of Itakpe's assets.
Okay, good to know that there's going to be a joint one, so we'll keep tabs on what and how things function there. But part of the reason why it was cancelled at the time, let me read part of it.
And what I should say to that, Chamberlain, really is that anyone who...
Go ahead.
Is that anyone who really has any issues, which is what I've had to say to the unions. I've been in the process of this negotiation and agreement, met with the Nigerian Union of Mine Workers to explain to them what we're doing, and also ask them to bring in their own perspective into this, so that at the end of the day, it's something that we can all take joint ownership of.
Okay,
we are accountable as a government to Nigerian people. We are also working with the state. I mean, you must have heard what the governor of Kogi said just yesterday about this. We're working with the communities as well. The Ohinoyi of Ebireland and the other community leaders have been contacted as far as this issue is concerned, and we're going to be in ongoing discussion with all these players.
Is there any updates on part of the reason why it was cancelled at that time by former President Yar'Adua, as it was also published in several publications, even international ones? They said the panel that the president set up at the time found, or they accused GIHL of failing to submit a workable business plan within a specified time and cannibalizing and exporting machinery. They talk about assets splitting, stripping. The panel also said GIHL had borrowed $192 million from Nigerian banks by pledging Ajaokuta as collateral and had outstanding statutory obligation of 350 million naira. Is there any update whatsoever on this, or this is now history?
Well, Chamberlain, in arbitration, you make all kinds of allegations in order to prove your case. It's sad to say, and it was on the back of this failure on our part and on the part of the officials to provide credible evidence of all of these things that you mentioned, particularly the cannibalization, that led the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation to advise the President that, look, we need to cut our losses here. We have no evidence of what we're saying, and the London Court of Arbitration has repeatedly requested from us this evidence of cannibalization, of removal of properties, of all of these claims, and we've not been able to provide it. And yet we've kept a lawyer, a counsel on this matter for 8 years without that information. Now on debts and loans that Global Infrastructure 2. Well, I do not want to speak for Global because I'm not really a Global spokesperson. But what I do know is that Global loans taken could not have pledged the assets of Ajaokuta because the contract that Global signed in the concession agreement was clearly explicit that Ajaokuta belongs to the Nigerian government. It did not belong to a private owner. It was just under a concession, and I do not expect that any financial institution would take an asset that does not belong to a company as a collateral for any loan taken by such a company. It doesn't happen. However, the company that belongs to Global, on whose assets Global pledged for the loans it took from banks, was clearly taken into receivership, and that's the Delta Steel Company in Alaja. It's a private company. Global bought that company from the BPE and took loans clearly from banks, and when it could not pay those loans, AMCON took over that asset and resold that asset. So it's a quid pro quo. The one that belongs to Global was used to settle Global's debt. The one that does not belong to Global, which is a Ajaokuta company, reverts back to Nigeria. So what is the debate here?
Well, the other part of this is, we just had Natasha, and she was talking about the fact that the history of Global Infrastructure is somewhat questionable. Do we check them out and still consider them the best persons to run the steel project?
We have not asked Global to run any steel project. Chamberlain, you seem to be forgetting that we have been handed a fait accompli as a government. This was not the fault of the Buhari administration. This was something we met on the ground and we're trying to fix. We did not create this situation. We did not put Global in charge of Ajaokuta and Isakwe. The Obasanjo administration did that. And if they had failed in their duty to ensure that due diligence was done in order for Global to take it up, then that's not something you blame on us. We're trying to retrieve it back. And we have not even decided on who is going to run Ajaokuta. So the question of whether we check them out or did not check them out really doesn't arise now. It's a fait accompli. We're trying to get out of a messy situation. We're trying to ensure that Nigeria becomes a steel-producing nation rather than importing $3.3 billion worth of steel every year.